Okay, welcome. Good. I think everything's fine. Okay, cool. So welcome to this new week over here. For those of you who are new, first time joining in. Okay, so just very quick one, some housekeeping. We run this every Monday, 9:30. And the objective of the session over here is to, of course, walk you through some of the aspects, perspective of the market. We're going to look into some analysis and then talk about some opportunities that you can keep an eye on for the week. Okay, and then we'll just do a very quick Q&A, update you on some of the upcoming events that we're going to have, and then we'll wrap up the session from there. Okay, so this session over here, today's kind of webinar and analysis is actually sponsored and supported by Everything Trading. Okay, so at the end, we'll cover some of the current promotion offers as well as some of the upcoming workshop events. They are organized by Everything Trading, so that you're able to join in as well. If it's offline, then of course you need to be at that area. Okay. So good. Let's get started for today's session over here. And of course, quick one here is a disclaimer. Okay, everything that we're covering in today's session here is for educational purpose, right? And of course, we're going to talk about opportunities in market and trading and such. So make sure you're aware of the risks involved, okay? And of course, any trade opportunities or setups that we're talking about, just make sure you're aware of the risks, how to manage it before you execute them. Okay, so with that, let's quickly summarize what has happened last week in terms of the events, and then we'll look into this week here and what are the opportunities. Okay, so last week, if you take a look at the event calendar, I think the most kind of interesting aspect that happened was actually the CPI year on year coming in from the US. So you can see it was 6.5 previously, and then the market anticipated a 6.2, which is a drop, okay, of 0.3, but the actual one came in a little bit higher than expected. It did drop, but only dropped by 0.1, right? And that's where the dollar kind of like continued to see some strength. The reason is because people are anticipating that inflation indeed has been coming down, and it should be coming down fast, and therefore the Fed may not need to cut rates too many times, and they might probably slow down the rate cut. Okay, sorry, rate hike. Okay, not rate cut. But because of this CPI that was recently released, that kind of put the entire market in a little bit of like, so right now, should the Fed slow down its rate hike, or would the Fed continue, right, being very aggressive in hiking? So that is still something that the market is monitoring, and therefore you should be monitoring too. Okay, so you need to definitely keep track of moving forward. All this related data that's coming out is going to be very, very crucial. Okay. Then of course on Friday we have the core PPI and PPI. Another conversation that a lot of traders have is, are we gonna see a recession this year? Okay, but from the previous NFP data in February, early February, and of course you can see all this core PPI, PPI coming in. It doesn't really show sign of a recession. Okay. Labor market is strong, and usually when there's a strong labor market, unlikely we're gonna see a recession. Okay, but things can still evolve along the years, right? But right now, all this data is kind of like suggesting otherwise. Okay, so with that said, I think at least the short to perhaps mid-term fundamental point of view for the US dollar is likely going to be continued to be bullish in when I mean short to mid-term here, we're talking about maybe in a month's time or so. There's a very good chance we're going to see a little bit more strength in the dollar until new data is being released that suggests otherwise. Then things might change. Okay, so that's a very quick summary of what happened last week. If you take a look at this week here, today of course we have some holidays in the Canadian and US, so equities market is closed. I don't think there's going to be much movement from here on, okay, in terms of today's session. But for the week, on Tuesday we have the Canadian CPI, which is going to be quite important. Okay, of course, inflation is still one of the most important topic right now globally. Wednesday, we have the RBNZ, so you can see over here we're expecting a 0.5% hike. I don't think there's going to be any kind of surprises, so likely not much that's going to happen. Okay. Then, of course, we have the FOMC meeting minutes. Probably might give a little bit of volatility, but again, it's, you need to take a look. It's 3 a.m. For us in Asia, unlikely we're going to stay up all the way until trading it, right? So usually I don't trade, the FOMC meetings, okay? But I just understand that it's quite important if there's some surprise data that's being leaked, okay, or changes from the Fed that surprises the market, then volatility can be very, very huge, okay? And then on Friday, we have the core PCE, which is also important because that's kind of tracking the performance of how well the economy is doing as well, right? So over here, you can see we're expecting it to increase. Yeah, so again, back to that conversation as I covered just now, right? Inflation versus recession. Right now, you just need to track these two ends, okay? So relatively, I think this week here, from a fundamental economic data point of view, it's relatively quiet, okay? Or you can quote unquote relatively peaceful. So with that said, we're gonna look into the charts, right? So let's start off with the dollar index. Okay, so dollar index over here, from a technical point of view, and just now I covered a little bit on the fundamental point of view. Overall, I'm actually bullish on it. Okay, from a wave perspective, we're still expecting one more push to retest back at 105.60. If I were to zoom out a little bit, this little pushback up to 105.60, as I mentioned, is probably going to be a short-term to mid-term thing. And overall, we're basically still down, right? This little retracement basically just came back to this little high. It's not really an uptrend, okay? But short-term, it's pretty nice to capture the upside first, okay? So this week going in, I think the area to look out for, of course, is that pullback around that 50 and 618. If you can get a decent corrective structure that looks something like that, then that will be a very nice buy little trade to the upside. Important level to keep track is, of course, this recent low at 102.60 needs to be held. Which means price cannot break through that, right? If price came down, break through 102.60, I don't think we'll be interested in the buy anymore. We need to update the analysis. But for now, as long as price maintain above that, from a technical point of view, we're going to continue to expect a strength, right, coming in for the dollar. So if we're seeing strength in the dollar, then of course euro over here we'll probably look for a sell. But short term, as we're looking at dollar index correcting, there's a good chance euro dollar will correct to the upside as well. Right now, we are looking at this from a count of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, of course, 3 and 5 builds up the divergence, very nice little area of rejection as well. So there's a good possibility we're going to see a 3-wave pullback of an ABC. Okay, potentially towards 1.0800, which is where wave 4 is, and then another down move. For me, I'm not so interested in this little upside. It looks quite small, not really that attractive as a swing trade. But once it tags around 1.0800, I'll be more interested to look for the sell. And then, I mean, that would be a little bit more attractive because we're then looking at 1.0800 back towards like 1.0480, right, to kind of complete this as a 3-wave move. Okay, so this week here, I think, this might develop. You may or may not get a trade by this week, but of course we need to see how the market turns out to be. Okay. Pound dollar, quite nice as well. I think short term we have this little downside here. So again, 1, 2, 3 downside, target at 1.1840. This would then give us a very nice little flag, which is a 3-wave corrective move, and then from there 1.1840, maybe a double bottom, and then we can see a big move to the upside, right? So we'll track, okay, we'll track this, but for now I think this week here we're looking at the sell first, okay. Aussie dollar, same thing over here. We'll probably wait for this to come down, go up a little bit, and then we'll look for that sell. Aussie dollar here overall, I'm also bearish on it. we have quite a nice little run to the upside, so a little bit of a pullback is common. And this pullback here will come back towards like the midway point of this entire move, and then we can still then look for a longer term upside. Yeah, but again, those are a little bit into the future. For now, we just look for that sell opportunity. Okay. Dollar CAD, I'm not touching it simply because it's still kind of like being supported or rejected from this trend line. So as long as the market is not able to break through, then we might still come back down. Okay, so for me, I'm still maintaining a neutral perspective, but if you can get potentially a sell setup maybe later part of this week, we can look for that sell trade, to break this low, and then the next move to the upside. Or if the market is able to break above this little trend line here very strongly and then does a little bit of pullback, then obviously we won't expect any more downside. We'll flip our directional bias, and we're gonna look for buy opportunities from there on. Okay, but for now, we need to give time for the market to show us what it wants to develop. Then we're gonna commit to a certain direction once we get clarity on it. Dollar yen may be developing an extended third wave, right? So this one here definitely a little bit more advanced. What I'm seeing over here is potentially as a inner 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 and 5 soon to kind of complete that 1, 2, 3, and then a bigger pullback 4 and 5, right? So whatever it is, definitely we're looking at upside on the dollar yen as of now. But again, this might do a little bit of a corrective pullback before another move. Why is the direction up? Because if I were to look at this here, right, the market kind of broke through a pretty significant trend line on the daily scale, and this breakthrough to the upside is rather impulsive. So that kind of suggests to me that the momentum is definitely to the upside, and any pullback, if it's going to be a corrective one, is going to give us a buy setup. Okay, so if you can get a decent pullback here, definitely a buy setup, look for more upside. And for dollar yen, the upside is really, really huge because you can see, it has came down quite significantly. Even if it's pulling back towards maybe that 618 here, it might bring you to 142 level, which is huge, right? We are currently trading around 134. Okay, so look out for that. Gold XAU short term here, I think we have a little bit of a retracement to the upside. Again, this may be completing that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so at least a decent pullback towards 1890. Depending on your trade plan, depending on your style and approach, right, you may look for a short-term buy towards 1890. If you're more conservative, then wait for it to pull back towards 1890, and then we'll look for another sell to complete that 1, 2, 3. Then maybe the bigger move after this will be to the upside. Okay, so short-term upside on gold. If you're swing trade, then maybe you want to wait for that drop. Okay, look for that sell opportunity after it tags 1890. Right, that's on gold chart. Crude oil over here, we're expecting a little bit more upside to complete this double zigzag. So we are seeing a little bit of a nice reaction around that 50 and 618 recently. So I anticipate and expect the market to just continue that momentum to the upside. Target here is somewhere around $84.20 for crude oil. And of course, ideally, we want it to break through this trend line here as well, okay? Which means this goes up, breaks through, does a bit small consolidation, and momentum just keep going. That's the ideal context and situation. Okay, so if you have managed to get involved in any buy trade on crude oil, just manage it accordingly. Okay, if you have opportunity, shift stops to break even, take some partial profits, protect your profit, whatever it is. Okay. Because crude oil here, there's a good chance after it tags somewhere around this level of $84, we might still see one bigger move down, right? Because this looks very, very corrective in nature. Okay, S&P, of course, today the market in the US equities is closed, but seems like we are getting a pretty decent three-wave structure from the recent peak here. So you can see 1, 2, 3, and of course if you can get a crawl here, right, it will be even better because that kind of give you that 3 wave plus a crawl plus the fit plus the trend line. Okay, so many factors are coming in. There's a good possibility we'll then see that bounce up. Okay, so if that's the case, then we're anticipating that S&P equities have bottomed last year, and we're likely going to see it transit back into a bull market this year onwards, right? If that's the case. Yeah, so if you're looking for, investing opportunity, right? Whether to invest in the market right now, is it a good time and things like that. Some skills on technical analysis might help you time the market a little bit better, okay? Because we're always in the debate, if you're a long-term investor, it's like, there's one side of the school saying that you should never time the market. Okay? Being in the market, most of the time is gonna outperform people who try to time it. Okay, and then there's another school of thought that just do dollar cost averaging. Okay, but for me, if you have the skill set to look at the charts to do your timing a little bit better, to complement all those principles, right, it's gonna be way more effective. Okay, so from my point of view on S&P right now, if we're gonna get a corrective crawl here, okay, then there's a very good chance we may have see the bottom for the US market, and we can look for more upside. Okay, so keep an eye on that. Other than that, we'll take a look at a Bitcoin chart. Crypto recently kind of rallied quite nicely as well. For those of you who managed to capture that, great. So recent bottom is somewhere around here, 14,900. Okay, so from a wave count perspective, we kind of have a 1, 2, this is a big 3, 4, and then we're developing a bigger degree 5th wave. And of course, internally, you can see here, we have that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So right now, if we're going to focus on this, then we have a little bit more upside that we can potentially catch on, right? So if the market gives a little bit of a retracement pullback, maybe using a 15618, you can look for a buy back to the target at $27,200 area. Okay, so if you have been observing, of course, crypto is a very speculative asset. It's considered what we call a higher risk, higher return asset. And during a risk on market sentiment or environment, it tends to perform, right? And that's the part where you start to see some kind of correlation with equities, S&P. So again, if you look at S&P chart, if that's gonna be where we're gonna see a little bit of a bounce back up, and if it's gonna be the bottom, then if you translate that relationship into Bitcoin, then we're gonna see a little bit more upside on Bitcoin or crypto in general. And maybe recently we have found the bottom in crypto too. Okay. So yeah, those are some of the markets that I think it's worth monitoring. Okay, some of this you probably want to just be neutral, wait for more information from the market, but some of this over here that we cover is quite clear. Okay, so I hope it helps so far. Good. So with that, let me go over some of the office and some of the upcoming events that we're gonna have. Okay, and then if you have any questions, you can just type it in right now. After we share a bit more, and then I'll look at the questions and answer your questions along the way. Okay. So first up over here, for those of you who are fairly new to Everything Trading, Everything Trading is partnering with the broker called Zenfinix. Okay. So if today you're looking for a alternative broker, okay, on top of what you're using, or if let's say you're very new and you do not have any account right now with any broker, you can actually go and check out Zenfinix. If you would like to find out a bit more about Everything Trading and Zenfinix, right, what you can do is you actually can directly WhatsApp the support team. Okay, so if you're watching on Zoom right now, the team has actually dropped a link to WhatsApp Okay, if you click it, it will just direct you to WhatsApp, and then you'll be able to then WhatsApp them directly any questions, any inquiries that you have. If you're watching this right now on YouTube, okay, just go over to the description box in the video below. Again, I've inserted a link to WhatsApp, right? So it's the same one, you just reach out to them. Okay, so over here, Zenfinix is doing a deposit bonus at this moment, right? So if you put in, you register your account, and then you deposit some funds in, depending on the tier. Okay, if you put in $100, you're gonna get 88. You put in 200, you're gonna get 96, and then if you put in 500, you're gonna get $140 of credit bonus, right? So the credit bonus allows you to have a higher margin to execute your trade. Okay, so that's the current promotion that they have. Another one over here, if you're not in the Zenfinix Trading Those Telegram channel, you can scan this QR code right now. It will lead you into the channel, and then just click join, you'll be inside. Inside this channel, I'm gonna post one chart a day, and of course, whenever we have again announcement, upcoming events, and things like that, we'll also put it up there, so you'll be able to get updates on it. Okay, so just scan this QR code, it will lead you into the Telegram channel. Another one here is an upcoming Elliott Wave physical masterclass. It's a live workshop that's happening in KL. It's actually happening this Saturday, right, 25th of February from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. The venue will be at Mid Valley Citytel Hotel. This one here for the usual retail price. So what it means is that if today you want to enroll to this workshop, enroll into this online course, it's at $497. Okay, but today, Everything Trading and Zenfinix is sponsoring this if you are a qualified client of theirs, right? So again, if you want to find out, how you can actually attend this for free, just reach out to them, right? You have the WhatsApp link, click on it, ask the team about it. They'll share with you more information about it. Okay, so this is going to be a very, very hands-on workshop. Okay, we kind of cap it with a limited amount of participants so that we have more time one-on-one, working in a small group, so that the participants will have the full attention on from me as well. Okay, so this is something that's happening this coming Saturday, right? You don't have much time. If you're really keen onto this, reach out to them ASAP. Okay, and then reserve your seat, register for the seat. Okay, another two events that we're gonna have on March, right? So just very quickly share with you a little bit into March. On the 4th of March, we're gonna have a workshop in Penang. Okay, 3 to 6 p.m. That's gonna be on Saturday. We're gonna have it at Bukit Mertajam Iconic Hotel. So if you're based in mainland Penang, and you are interested to find out a little bit more, okay, again, feel free to WhatsApp them, register for a seat for Penang. And then on Sunday, which is the 4th of March, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m., we're gonna have similar one in Penang Island, okay, at Georgetown. So same thing here. If you're interested, reach out to the team via WhatsApp, right? Register for a seat, and I'll see you there. Okay, yeah. So good. Those are some of the upcoming events that I thought I wanted to share with you. Okay. Good. We have one question here from James, which asks, looking at the monthly gold chart, what's your opinion on it? Monthly. I think from a monthly perspective, yeah, it's definitely upside from a long-term point of view, right? So what we're seeing here on gold is basically this little corrective structure. We have this very nice little impulse. So what can happen over here is potentially a 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're looking at 5th wave up, then maybe a bigger corrective structure, and then after that we're still anticipating more upside. Okay, of course this is a monthly, so you don't need to forecast too much further down the road, because things might change eventually. But for me, monthly means long term. Okay, you're looking at maybe 12 months horizon, or even 2 years horizon. I would say gold here, I'm bullish. Okay, I'm fundamentally and macro perspective, I'm bullish on gold. Okay, another question I see here from Chu asking about NASDAQ. Okay. Okay, so I think NASDAQ overall is going to be quite similar to the S&P. It's basically developing this structure over here, right? So same thing here, we have a WXY, so you just look for a potential buy. Yeah, I think very similar to the S&P, right? This kind of trend line has been broken, so I think there's upside onto that. Even if you stretch it all the way, yeah, that's a very significant trend line broken, right? Yeah, so I think overall US equities, more or less they're developing the same structure, so keep an eye on that. Overall, if you can get a decent corrective slow move down, then definitely more upside onto that. Okay. James asks, do you think if the scenario where the Russia and Ukraine war escalate, how big the impact of gold and food will be affected? Definitely will have a major impact, right? I mean, more importantly on gold, because gold is like a risk-off asset, right? So whenever there's some kind of like war outbreak that is quite significant, gold would rally. Okay, and of course, from another perspective here is if China or India starts to come back, in play, especially on China's side, after that whole lockdown period, they're starting to reopening up. They might drive some demand in gold as well from a government point of view, right? So overall, I think global demand for gold is definitely there. Okay, so that's why I say from a macro perspective, from a long-term fundamental point of view, it's pretty safe bet to say gold will go up, right? Yeah, so that's my point of view. Okay. Chu asks if dollar strengthen will it affect gold? Yes, right, because you're looking at XAU USD, right? So that's that relationship there. But to me, dollar unlikely gonna strengthen for long. Okay, I mean right now we're seeing dollar strength. To me, that's a temporary relief rally. Okay, because at some point in time down the road, the Fed needs to cut interest rate. Okay, they need to, right? It's a matter of when. Okay, so eventually when they start to really make that decision and the market starts to price in that they are cutting soon, the dollar will weaken again. Okay, so yeah, they will have an impact in XAU USD, but gold by itself has its catalyst, has its factors that will contribute to it as well, right? So when you're trading XAU USD, you can't just look at dollar itself, but you also need to factor in what are some of the things that might move gold prices. Okay, so yeah, consider that. Of course, if you are looking at long-term investing, you might also want to compare, like gold against other currency. It might perform a little bit better. Okay, yeah, so that's the thing to look up for. Cool. Yeah, so some of you are asking over here. I see some questions coming in from the YouTube side, right? Asking about Bitcoin. I think we cover on that. Okay, I think you see a question here on will the Japanese yen pairs likely strengthen? If you're talking about Japanese yen pair strengthening, I think the most obvious one is dollar yen, which is looking for upside, right? When you mean Japanese yen pairs rallying, it's quite, you need to be clear because some traders will refer to that as like dollar yen going up. Okay, and some of them might refer to the yen rallying. Okay? So you just need to take note of that. But because you are saying Japanese pair, so I'm taking the information as if dollar yen would rally, right? Which means the yen weaken. From most of the yen pairs, technical point of view, I think the clearest right now is dollar yen. The rest, is just basically not the clearest during this week. You might want to just skip the yen for now. Okay, and maybe just choose one, which is the dollar yen, to focus for this week. Okay, cool. Yeah, so hopefully today's session here helps. That's all from me for today. Okay, all the best for you guys who are trading. Oh, last question. Okay. Over here has a question from James. Recent live CNBC EU stated about their current situation where they are concerned about their electricity, coal, etc. But they also state that they are ready for next winter, where in the end they sums up with a word quite interesting. Our LMGs come from Russia. How would you read it? Yes, okay. I think if you look into the relationship between Russia and Europe, okay, I mean, like, why is Ukraine in war? Is really because of this gateway, right? I mean, Ukraine is actually one of the major gateway that facilitate energy trades between Russia and Europe, okay? And Russia attacked Ukraine with one of the primary reasons is because they are afraid that Ukraine would gain certain control and able to then, take power in terms of this facilitation of the energy trade. And Russia doesn't like it, right? So they want to kind of like assert their power too, and that's where they go into war. So yes, okay, definitely this war here is going to have a very major impact in terms of the energy resources for Europe. Okay, and I think since the war outbreak, they have already started to diversify their supply from Russia. Okay, but of course that's gonna take time, right? That's the part where you also start to see energy rally that past 2 years when the war break, right? I mean, past one year plus to 2 years, really because there's a sudden shortage of supply, but the demand is not gonna drop, okay, especially during winter times, right? So that's where energy prices spike. Okay, so energy prices are likely gonna maintain relatively high price until the supply comes back in, right? And this is not something that is able to be solved short term. Okay, so my point of view is, if you're looking at beyond the FX world, then energy is definitely something that will have a bigger volatility in these few recent years. Some traders and investors don't really like that because of the volatile movement. Okay, then of course what you can then look into would be agriculture. Okay, because there is that kind of relationship between those two markets as well. Okay, so I think energy prices are likely going to continue very volatile. Really depends on the supply effect. Okay, the supply side. If they're able to find solutions to that, then it can bring down prices. If supply is not being solved and the war between Ukraine and Russia escalates, and then Russia decides to cut down on supply and things like that, then energy prices can go up very, very fast. Okay. To us, would the war also increase demand in oil? Likely, right? Because again, the one commodity that is needed in the wartime is oil. So yes, okay. I mean, the thing here is I doubt that the Russia-Ukraine war is gonna escalate significantly. My view here is it's just gonna be stuck there for some time. Yeah, it's not an easy solution out because it's talking about power, right? If Russia back down now, to them it's like they lost the battle, right? They lost the war, so they are not likely gonna back down. But at the same time, Russia economy is really suffering because of the global kind of sanctions, right? So it's gonna take time, but at some point in time, this would likely resolve in one way or another. I don't think that it's gonna go worse. Okay, in terms of like the physical war, I don't think it's gonna go worse, but it's gonna be there for some time. Okay, so that's my own point of view. But of course, if you're interested in all these events, right, you need to keep track because they develop and they evolve quite fast. Okay, according to things that's happening. Okay, cool. Okay, so those are some of the sharing that I have. Okay, some of my point of view as well. Okay, good. So good conversation today. I hope it gives you some insights into the market. And quick wrap up over here again for those of you interested to find out a little more about everything trading, you know, the events, the workshops that's upcoming. Reach out to them via WhatsApp. Okay, and I'll see you guys in those respective events itself. Cool. Okay, so that's all from me. All the best for this week, and we'll see you guys then. See you. Bye bye.